I've lived on Willow Lane for 4 years. It's a quiet cul-de-sac, 5 houses, a circle at the end of a dead-end street, the kind of neighborhood where everyone knows everyone, where people wave when you drive by, where neighbors bring you casseroles when you're sick, where nothing bad ever happens. That's what I told myself when we moved here. That's what I told myself when my son started kindergarten. That's what I told myself every morning when I waved to the same faces, walked the same sidewalks, drove the same route to the grocery store. I thought I was safe. I thought my family was safe. I thought the cul-de-sac was a bubble, a place where the outside world couldn't reach us. I was wrong. The outside world didn't need to reach us. It was already here. It had been here longer than any of us, longer than the houses, longer than the street, longer than the neighborhood. And last week, I found out why no one ever talks about the house at the end of the road. Because there is no house at the end of the road. But there should be. It started with a text message from my friend Rachel. She lives 3 houses down. We've been friends since we moved in. Our kids play together. Our husbands watch football together. We're the kind of neighbors who have each other's spare keys. The text came at 7 a.m. Hey, are you okay? I saw you standing outside my house at 3 a.m. I was going to come out, but you walked away before I could get dressed. Everything all right? I was asleep at 3 a.m. My husband was asleep. My son was asleep. I checked the front door camera. No one came in. No one went out. I was in bed from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I have the footage to prove it. I texted Rachel back. Told her she must have been dreaming. She said she wasn't. She said she saw me clearly. My blue robe, my slippers, my hair down, standing on her lawn, looking at her bedroom window. Not moving. Just standing there. She said it was the most frightening thing she'd ever seen. Not because of what I was doing, because of my face. She said I wasn't blinking. She said I was smiling. She said it looked like me, but it wasn't me. I laughed it off, told her she needed more sleep, told her the stress of the kids was getting to her, told her not to worry about it. But I couldn't stop thinking about her words. It looked like you, but it wasn't you. A week later, I found the note, under my front door, handwritten, on a piece of paper I didn't recognize. Who was standing at your window last night? I asked my husband. He didn't write it. I asked my son. He can't write yet. I asked the neighbors. No one admitted to it. One of them, Carol from across the street, looked at me strangely when I asked. She said, "Why would anyone write you a note like that? No one stands at windows on this street. We're a safe neighborhood." She said it like she was trying to convince herself, like she was repeating a line she'd been told to say, like she was reading from a script. I started paying attention after that, to the way the neighbors talked, to the things they didn't say, to the car. The car appeared 3 weeks ago, a dark sedan, parked at the end of the cul-de-sac, where the road turns into a circle, where there are no houses, just trees and bushes, and the entrance to the greenbelt. No one knew who owned it. No one had seen it arrive. It was just there one morning, and no one mentioned it. Not once. Not in 4 weeks. I brought it up at the neighborhood block party. Whose car is that at the end of the street? Silence. People looked at their feet, changed the subject. One woman said, "What car?" Another said, "I haven't noticed any car." Another said, "Maybe it belongs to someone visiting the greenbelt." But there was no one in the greenbelt. I checked. I walked the trail. There were no hikers, no bikers, no dog walkers. Just the car. Parked in the same spot. Every day. All day. All night. I called the non-emergency police line. They said they'd send someone to check. No one came. I called again. They said there was no record of my first call. They said they'd send someone. No one came. I called the HOA. The woman on the phone said she'd look into it. She never called back. I called again. She said, "We've decided not to take action at this time." Her voice was flat, like she was reading from a script, like someone had told her exactly what to say. That's when I started researching the neighborhood. The history. The original development. The plans from 1962. I went to the local library, found the original subdivision map. Willow Lane was on it. 5 houses. A circle at the end of a dead-end street. The same as now. But the map showed 6 houses. Not 5. 6. The 6th house was at the end of the cul-de-sac, where the car is parked now, where there are only trees and bushes and the entrance to the greenbelt. I asked the librarian about it. She said the map must be wrong. She said the developer changed the plans. She said the 6th house was never built, but the map showed the house, numbered, labeled, 6 Willow Lane. And in the margin, in handwriting, a note, "Occupied. Do not disturb." I asked who owned the land now. She didn't know. I asked if there were any records of construction. She said no. I asked if anyone had ever lived there. She said, "I don't think so." But she wouldn't look me in the eye. And when I turned away, I saw her pick up the phone, and I heard her whisper something. And I heard her say my address. That night, my son asked me about the woman. He's 6 years old. He's never lied to me, not once. He said, "Mommy, who is the lady who lives at the end of the street? The one who stands in the window." I asked him what window. He said, "The window of the house at the end, the one with the dark car. The lady watches me when I play outside. She never waves back." I took him to the end of the cul-de-sac, showed him the trees, the bushes, the greenbelt. "There's no house here, sweetheart," I said. "You must be imagining it." He pointed. "It's right there, Mommy, between the big tree and the bush. You can't see it?" I looked. I saw nothing. Just trees, just bushes, just the dark car. But then, for a second, I saw something else. A shape. A building. A window. And in the window, a face. A woman. Dark hair, blue robe, slippers, hair down. My face. She was smiling. And she wasn't blinking. I blinked. She was gone. The house was gone. Just trees. Just bushes. Just the dark car. But the car's engine was running. And the driver's seat was empty. I started sleeping with the lights on after that. My husband thought I was crazy. He said I was stressed. He said I needed to see someone. He said, "Maybe you should talk to Dr. Patel, just to rule out anxiety." He meant well. He was trying to help. But I could hear it in his voice. The same flatness. The same script. The same words the neighbors used. The same words the HOA used. The same words the librarian used. Just to rule out anxiety. We've decided not to take action. I don't think so. Why would anyone write you a note? They were all saying the same thing. Not because they believed it, because someone had told them to say it. Someone had been preparing them. For years. For decades. For as long as the cul-de-sac had existed. The resident. The one who lived in the house that wasn't there. The one who had been here before the development, before the street, before the city. The one who watched from the window. The one who looked like me. I started keeping a journal. Every night I wrote down what I saw. The car, the house, the face in the window, the footsteps. The footsteps started at 3 a.m. every night, from the end of the cul-de-sac, from the direction of the car, from the place where the house should be. They would walk down the street, stop in front of my house, wait, then walk back. Same time, same route, every night. I could hear them from my bedroom window. Soft, deliberate. The sound of someone who didn't want to be heard, someone who was practicing, someone who was learning. One night, I recorded the footsteps on my phone, played them back. They stopped exactly when I stopped walking, started exactly when I started. Like whoever was making them was matching my movements, like they were connected to me, like they were me. I looked out the window. The street was empty. The car was still there. The house was still invisible. But in the window of the house, the one I couldn't see, there was a light. And in the light, a silhouette. A woman, waving, wearing my blue robe. I tried to leave. I packed a bag, loaded my son in the car, told my husband we were going to my mother's. He didn't argue. He just nodded. The same flat nod, the same empty eyes, the same script. "Okay," he said. "Drive safe. Call when you get there." He didn't ask why. He didn't ask for how long. He didn't ask if I was okay. He just stood in the doorway, watching me leave, with the same expression I'd seen on the neighbors' faces, the same expression I'd seen on the librarian's face, the same expression I'd seen on the HOA woman's face. The expression of someone who knew something I didn't. Someone who had been told to let me go. Someone who was waiting for me to come back. I drove to my mother's house, 2 hours away. My son fell asleep in the back seat. The road was empty. The night was dark. The car was quiet. But I could hear the footsteps, coming from the back seat, coming from my son's mouth, coming from his sleeping breath. "The lady says hi, Mommy. She says she's been waiting for you. She says you're almost ready. She says you just need to let go." I pulled over, checked the back seat. My son was asleep. His mouth was closed. His breathing was normal. But his eyes were open, and he was smiling. The same smile, the smile that didn't blink. I drove faster, didn't stop until I reached my mother's house, didn't sleep, didn't eat, just sat in the dark watching my son sleep, waiting for him to wake up and be himself again. He woke up at 7 a.m. Normal, smiling, himself. He didn't remember anything. He didn't remember the lady. He didn't remember the house. He didn't remember the car. I stayed at my mother's for a week. I didn't call my husband. He didn't call me. I didn't call the neighbors. They didn't call me. It was like I had never existed, like I had already been replaced. When I came back, the car was gone. The house was gone. The footsteps were gone. Everything was normal. My husband said he missed me. The neighbors waved. The HOA sent a welcome back letter. No one mentioned the car. No one mentioned the woman. No one mentioned anything. I convinced myself it was nothing. Stress, anxiety, sleep deprivation, a breakdown. That's what the therapist said. That's what my husband said. That's what I told myself every morning when I woke up and looked out the window and saw the empty street and felt relieved. The car didn't come back in the spring, or the summer, or the fall. It came back in winter, last week. Parked at the end of the cul-de-sac. Same spot, same car, but different. The windows were tinted. I couldn't see inside, but I could feel someone watching. I could hear the footsteps at 3 a.m. I could see the light in the invisible house. And last night, I looked out my bedroom window. The car was closer, parked across the street, right in front of my house. The engine was running. The driver's seat was empty. But in the back seat, there was a child, a little boy, 6 years old, dark hair, blue pajamas, my son's pajamas. He was waving at me, smiling, not blinking. My son was asleep in the next room. I checked. He was there. He was breathing. He was himself. But the boy in the car was also my son. The same face, The same hair, the same smile, the same wave. And beside him, in the driver's seat, a woman. Dark hair, blue robe, slippers. My robe, my slippers. She turned her head, looked up at my window, smiled. She had my face, my eyes, my mouth, my teeth, but her eyes were wrong. They were older, much older. Like she had been watching this cul-de-sac for a very long time. Like she had been waiting for me to be born. Like she had been waiting for my son to be born. Like she had been waiting for this moment. She opened her mouth, spoke. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read her lips. Thank you for coming back. I've been waiting. Someone has to take my place. Someone has to live in the house at the end of the road. Someone has to watch. You're ready. Your son is ready. You just need to let go. I closed the curtain, woke my husband, told him there was a car outside. He looked. He said there was nothing. He said I was imagining it. He said I needed to take my medication. I looked out the window. The car was gone. The street was empty. The house was invisible. But on the lawn, in the frost, there were footprints, leading from the car to my front door, from my front door to my son's window, from my son's window to my bed. I slept on the couch last night. I didn't close my eyes. I just watched the door, watched the window, watched the street. The car didn't come back, but this morning when I went to check on my son, his pajamas were wet. Not from sweat, from something else. Something cold. Something that smelled like lake water. Something that smelled like the green belt. Something that smelled like the house that isn't there. And on his nightstand there was a note, in his handwriting, in letters he hasn't learned to write yet. The lady says hello, Mommy. She says you're almost ready. She says you just need to stop fighting. She says it's easier if you stop fighting. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know. I need someone to know what's happening on Willow Lane. I need someone to know about the car and the house and the woman who looks like me. I need someone to know that I'm not crazy, that the neighbors are lying, that the HOA is lying, that my husband is lying, that the librarian is lying, that everyone on this street has been told what to say, that they've been told for decades, that they've been told since before I was born. I need someone to know that the house at the end of the road is real, that the woman in the window is real, that the child in the back seat is real, that they've always been here, that they'll always be here, that they're waiting for someone to take their place. I need someone to know that I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let her take my son. I'm not going to let her take my life. I'm not going to let her become me. I'm going to end this tonight. I'm going to drive to the end of the cul-de-sac. I'm going to find the house. I'm going to walk through the door. I'm going to look her in the eye. And I'm going to ask her one question. The question I've been asking myself for 4 years. The question the neighbors won't answer. The question the HOA won't answer. The question my husband won't answer. Who was standing at my window last night? And if she says you, if she says it was me, if she says I've been the one watching all along, then I'll know. I'll know that I'm not fighting her. I'm fighting myself. I'm fighting the woman I'm becoming. The woman who has been waiting for me to let go. The woman who has been living in the house at the end of the road since before the road was built. The woman who has my face, my name, my life. The woman who is me. I'm going now. I'll write again when I get back. If I get back. My grandmother died 5 years ago. Lung cancer. I held her hand when she stopped breathing. I was the only one in the room. My mother couldn't do it. My father was already gone. So it was just me, holding her hand, watching her chest rise and fall, and then stop. That sound. The last breath. I've never forgotten it. Mrs. Hendricks reminded me of my grandmother. Same hands, same voice, same way of saying, "Thank you, dear," like she really meant it. She was 82. Stroke recovery. Bedridden. No family, no visitors. Just me, twice a shift, checking on her, turning her, making sure she didn't choke on her own saliva. I took care of her like she was my own blood, because she was the closest thing I had. I live alone. Small apartment on the 3rd floor. No partner, no kids, no friends who call anymore. Just me and my patients. That's what I told myself anyway. That's what I believed. I got home at 7 in the morning. 3rd shift in a row. 14 hours each. I hadn't slept properly in 3 days. My scrubs smelled like antiseptic and someone else's sweat. All I wanted was to take a shower and fall into bed. But something was wrong. The chair was in the wrong place. My chair. The one I always sit in. It was pushed in too far, almost touching the wall. I don't put it there. I leave it pulled out about a foot. Always. I've done it so many times that my body knows the distance without me thinking about it. And my uniform was folded on the chair. The one I wore yesterday. I don't fold my uniform. I throw it in the hamper. Always. Every single night for 2 years. I stood there for a long time, just looking at it, trying to remember, trying to find the normal explanation. I told myself it was nothing. I'm exhausted. When you're this tired, your brain fills in gaps. You do things on autopilot and don't remember. I've seen it in patients. I've done it myself before. So I sat down, drank my tea, tried to let the tiredness take over. But the bathroom door was closed. I don't close the bathroom door when I'm alone. Never. I leave it open so the light spills into the hallway. I don't remember closing it. I finished my tea, put the mug in the sink, walked to the bathroom, pushed the door open. The floor was wet. One footprint. Right in the middle of the tile. Damp, but not just damp. Warm. The water was still warm. Someone had stood there recently. Very recently. And the toes had curled inward, pressed into the tile like whoever stood there had been in pain. Or waiting. Or both. The footprint was larger than mine. Much larger. I wear a size 7. This was at least a 10, maybe bigger. I don't wear shoes in the apartment. I haven't had anyone over in weeks. I knelt down. I don't know why. Stupid. Really stupid. But I needed to know. I touched the footprint. The tile was warm. Body warm. Not shower warm. The specific heat of someone who had been standing there for a long time. Someone who was still there when I walked in. My hand was shaking. I could see it. My fingers trembling over the wet tile. I told myself I must have left the faucet running. I do that sometimes when I'm half asleep. I've done stupider things at 3 in the morning. So I grabbed a towel, wiped up the footprint, took a shower. Tried to pretend everything was fine. But when I got out of the shower, the footprint was back. Same place, same size, same warmth. And the bathroom mirror had fogged up. That's normal. What wasn't normal was the handprint. One handprint. High up on the glass. Too high for me. I'm 5'4". This handprint was at eye level for someone over 6 feet. And there were fingernail marks. Dragged down the glass. 4 lines, parallel, from the top of the print to the bottom. Like someone had been pressed against the mirror from the other side. Like someone had tried to push through. Someone had been standing behind me while I was in the shower, and I hadn't heard a thing. That was when I noticed the prescriptions. I keep my medications in the bathroom cabinet. Nothing unusual. But there were new bottles. 3 of them. Patient names on the labels. Not mine. Mrs. Hendricks, room 217. Stroke recovery. Bedridden. Her prescription bottle was in my bathroom cabinet. I didn't bring it home. I would never bring it home. That's a violation of policy. I could lose my license. But there it was. Her name, her medication, her dosage, and the bottle was half empty. I opened my mouth to call the hospital, just to check, just to make sure Mrs. Hendricks was still there, still in her bed, still safe. Nothing came out. Not a sound. Not a whisper. My throat was working. I could feel my vocal cords vibrating, but there was no noise. It was like my voice had been disconnected, like someone had reached inside me and turned off a switch. I've seen this before. In patients. Shock response. The body decides that making noise is dangerous, but I've never experienced it myself. And I've never seen it happen without a trigger. Something was in my apartment. Something had been in my apartment for a while, and my body knew it before my mind did. I stood in the bathroom for a long time, just listening. The apartment was silent. Too silent. The refrigerator wasn't running. The heat wasn't on. Even the street noise had stopped. It was like the whole building was holding its breath. And then I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Coming from the bedroom. The door was open. I could see the edge of my bed. The blankets were rumpled, not the way I left them, the way someone leaves them after lying down and getting back up. The breathing was slow, irregular, wet, like someone with fluid in their lungs, like someone who couldn't breathe properly, like someone who needed a nurse. I knew that sound. I had heard it 1,000 times. From Mrs. Hendricks, every night, every shift. The same wet, labored breath. The same struggle. But Mrs. Hendricks couldn't walk. Couldn't stand. Couldn't even sit up without help. She was bedridden. Paralyzed on her left side. There was no way she could get out of bed, let alone leave the hospital, let alone walk up 3 flights of stairs to my apartment. The breathing was getting closer. Not footsteps. No movement I could hear. Just the breathing. Getting louder. More present. Like whatever was making the sound was standing up. Walking toward the door. But making no sound except for that awful, labored breath. I closed my eyes. I don't know why. Maybe because I couldn't bear to see what was coming. When I opened them again, the breathing had stopped. The apartment was silent. Completely silent. The refrigerator was running again. The heat was on. Street noise had returned. Everything was normal, except for the handprints on the mirror, and the footprint on the floor, and the prescription bottles in my cabinet, and the smell. A smell I knew from the hospital. Antiseptic, bed sheets, and something else. Something sweet. Something wrong. The same smell that came from Mrs. Hendricks's room. The same smell that clung to her sheets, her gown, her skin. I went to the hospital that afternoon. I checked on Mrs. Hendricks. She was in her bed. She hadn't moved in days. Her chart showed no gaps. No one had reported anything unusual. But when I looked at her hands, I knew. Those weren't her hands. The fingers were too long. The nails were wrong. The skin was the same color, the same wrinkles, but the shape was different, subtle, almost invisible. But I had held her hands 100 times. I knew what they looked like. These weren't hers. I checked her medication log. Her prescriptions had been refilled yesterday, signed out by a nurse. The signature was mine. The date was yesterday. I wasn't working yesterday. I checked the security footage from the hospital. The hallway outside room 217, from 3 in the morning, the night I came home to the footprint and the handprint. The footage showed me walking into a room. At 3:17 a.m., carrying my purse, wearing my uniform. The same uniform I found folded on my chair when I got home. I don't remember being there. I don't remember walking into a room. I don't remember signing for her medication. But there I was, on the screen, walking into room 217 at 3:17 a.m. and walking out at 3:45 a.m., carrying something in my hands, something wrapped in a sheet, something that moved. I don't work at that hospital anymore. I quit last week. I couldn't go back, couldn't walk past room 217, couldn't hear that wet, irregular breathing without remembering. But I still hear it, at home, at night, in my new apartment. The breathing, coming from the bedroom, coming from under the bed, coming from inside the walls. And sometimes, it says my name, not in Mrs. Hendricks's voice. She never called me by my first name. She called me dear, always dear. The voice that says my name at night is older, weaker, more familiar. It sounds like my grandmother, the one whose hand I held when she stopped breathing, the one whose last breath I heard. I don't know what followed me home from that hospital. I don't know if it was Mrs. Hendricks. I don't know if it was something that had been inside her, something that had been using her lungs, something that had been waiting for someone to care about her enough to follow. But I know it knows my name. I know it knows my grandmother's voice. I know it's been inside my apartment for a long time. And sometimes, when I'm lying in bed in the dark, trying not to breathe too loud, I feel it lying next to me. The blankets shift, the mattress depresses, and I hear that wet, irregular breathing right next to my ear. I haven't slept in 3 days. Not since I quit. Not since I saw the footage. Not since I realized that the thing in my apartment isn't Mrs. Hendricks. It's the thing that was waiting for her to die, so it could come home with me.